But I think that's interesting because like around that time when you are in sixth form and stuff, especially when you are second generation, I think that you really do start feeling that difference. I remember even when I was in high school, secondary school, like my friends growing up were all white, and then when I got to sixth form, I don't know what happened, like when I was starting to get like 15, 16, 17 at that age, I just started gravitating to like the only other 5 like brown girls who were in my school, because we moved out to one of the other counties to go for schools.
Were they from a specific background, or were they from the same kind of background, like East African Asian as well? Or?
Yeah, well, most of them were Gujarati, and I think the most Gujarati people my age, or in London, do have East African heritage. I know now, I think it's different. But yeah, I think most of them were. One of them was Pakistani. Actually, yeah, one of them was Pakistani, but her mum's Indian, used to be Hindu, Kenyan. So yeah, we did have some sort of, but it wasn't because of that shared heritage. It was literally, I mean, I guess it was truly because we were brown. But the reason why I think I started gravitating because it was like around the time when people were starting to like drink a lot and stuff and get wasted, and I just knew that like that wasn't my background. That wasn't what I knew my parents or any of my culture would be alright with. So I just felt like these are just people who I don't have to explain myself around, that I just like could be. We weren't like having Indian jokes or any of that necessarily, but it just felt like it just felt more comfortable. And I still was friends with my white friends as well, but that certain familiarity was different. And I think it was interesting that like it was in sixth. I just specifically remember sixth form in the common room and stuff. And everyone was. It was a really nice school, but it's interesting that it's kind of at that time when you become a teenager, when people are starting to go out, when you start realising certain differences in what is okay for you guys. Like, oh, I can't go out. Why? Because my mum says that I can't, and that's just not an okay excuse for like some of my like white friends. Their parents were fine with all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, I just thought that was one of the first times I started thinking about like, yeah, I have a different upbringing. Even though my parents were very much like British, it was still, and they are pretty liberal and lenient, but there was this element of like, know where you're from.
Mm-hmm. I think I never really, when I was growing up, we have a really strong my parents and my uncles and aunts and my grandparents have like taught us and instilled like certain values into us ever since we were born. Like ever since we've been little, like I've known where I've come from. Maybe it took me a while to figure that out sometimes, but especially sometimes being in a school surrounding when I know that I'm kind of not like other people there, but also I don't know who I can relate to, but I didn't ever forget like, and that is fundamentally because of the Indian core values, but also because of all of the experiences they had coming from East Africa to here that has shaped their views on things. Maybe they might consciously know it or they might not, I don't know, but
what sort of things do you think they brought from East Africa?
Definitely a sense of like, we're kind of like all in this together, really like, we like share a lot. I mean, I know a lot of cultures have that, but like a lot of like, I don't know, it just always felt like a really big network. Like I just felt like everybody that they knew or they came back, like when they first came to the UK, they had their own little communities. Like there were people that my granddad still remembers that, oh, in the camp we knew them and we knew these people. Like there's a really big like network of people of that they know. And I always hear them like talk about these people. I mean, maybe I don't know who they are, but to them they're like an extension of the family because they went through these experiences together.
I feel like with your mum though, I hear her speaking more about things being built, like
Yeah,
nice and
mum's
idyllic
yeah.
in Uganda more than
Yeah.
I feel. In my head,
is in Kaliro, not in.
Yeah.
And she left they left voluntarily as well.
Yeah. And I think that I don't know why I think that your mum relates more to being from Uganda than your dad does.
Yeah, maybe. But Dada really, I think, because I always hear my grandparents, because Dada relates to me. That's where the majority is.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Personally, growing up, I was Indian Hindu. That was what we were brought up as. We were, and I was like, and I found being from East Africa really interesting. But when I used to be like, oh, you know, mum and dad, like, you're from East Africa. Like, no, we're not. And I was saying to mum, like, why don't you tell people that? Like, why isn't that part of your identity? Mum's like, I just happened to be born there. My mum doesn't necessarily feel any attachment to East Africa. I mean, she was only 2 when she left, but she was just like, I just had that. Like, there wasn't, for her, it was just like, it was coincidental. That was fine. Whereas, and I really, that's something that I wish that we weren't like. I know there are more people who do relate more to the East African heritage than my family do, but I do feel like we're Indian first.
And your parents, you said one's from Africa and one's from...
both from Africa.
Both from Africa.
My dad's from, yes, dad's from Kampala, mum's from Kaliro.
But still
Both
Uganda.
Uganda though, yeah. But my mother's family left voluntarily before, like, it was gone.
What age were your parents?
My dad was around 13 or 14, I think, and my mum, I actually can't recall, but she was like, I want to say 6 or 7, so she, well, probably a little bit older than that, but she had she remembers it fondly. I mean, when my dad remembers his childhood, he remembers it really fondly, but he'll be like, I'm Indian. Like, he doesn't, actually, for the first time ever, like 2 days ago, we were watching a TV show, and it had lots of the African leaders of around like 1950s, 1960s, and he got really excited and he paused the TV and he started naming like the
It's
war.
so annoying. They
all
get
of
really
them.
excited when
Yeah.
they see it on TV, but like when you're actually trying to talk, it's
It
just
could
like...
be like my dad doing that. Like he actually got up from the seat and he was just like, yeah. And then I was like, Dad, how do you know all of these? He's like, of course I do. I'm African. And that's the first time I've ever heard him say that, because he was just so smug that he could like name everybody. But yeah.
What, can you tell me some of the stories that he or your mum tell you about East Africa?
East Africa, yeah, a lot of it is just to do around food, or like being in school, really just like strict teachers. But like a lot of it was just like my dad, my uncle, like all of their like close relations who used to live close by, just playing a lot outside, usually with things like rocks or like hoop or like very simple things. It's just a far simpler time.
Yeah.
Like, and they just, I mean, they were just a bunch of little boys just having fun. But I don't know, it just sounds a lot like the outdoors.
I do think our family was more privileged than others.
Yes, definitely.
Like, being the caste that we were, I think that, which I have a lot of trouble with, and I'm trying to like deconstruct in my own identity. But that and owning businesses, like your mum's dad was a head teacher at a school. My grandma was a teacher. I don't know. I think that there was that like slight difference, and I think that like Indian people in Africa as well, there was a different hierarchy, and there was. I know there were some Indian people in East Africa who were very integrated into like the African community, but from what I know, there was just an Indian community. They had all of their Indian shops, they had Indian friends. There wasn't necessarily a need to integrate.
Having said that, like our grandfather and great grandmother can speak Swahili.
They do though, yeah.
And also, there's another language in Uganda.
Yeah, Roganti.
I think so. Yeah, Mark can speak that.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. Like so they did have to work, but it was English. Different.
Our grandmother over here, she can fully understand English. She can read, but yeah, she doesn't really speak that much English. coming here,
Yeah.
which is quite interesting.
Do you think that she integrated more because she went there at quite a young age? Or
Grandma.
your grandma?
That's a really good point. Perhaps. I think like the way that they had to just leave Uganda and come here, I think, and also the hostility that they faced coming here, I think she wanted to keep more to maybe herself than go out, learn English. I mean, she worked over here, and she had enough English to do that, but I don't know what
That's kind of her nature as well.
Yeah.
Compared to your nanny G and my nanny G, our mums, like our bar is quite like my family first. Like I'd rather should be quite happy just like making sure that everyone in like the four walls are kind of happy.
Yeah.
Whereas like our grandmas are way more like our other grandmas are, like they went out. I mean, Bar went out to work in factories before she came here, which is also a new experience. And yeah, I don't know.
You were going to show me some photos, weren't you?
Yeah, I can't find them. I've got some on my phone.
Yeah. Also, you could just, because I thought I'd be interested. What I'm interested in is also what their houses were like in Africa.
In Africa?
Oh, I don't know. No, I don't. I definitely don't.
Did they describe what they were like to you, the layouts of them and the location of them?
No, like the only thing that I remember from in Kenya, my grandma saying that they used to have an avocado tree in the back garden, but they didn't know what an avocado was. So they were like, it's really weird now that everyone's obsessed with avocados, but then they would just like fall off the tree and no one would like take any notice of them. And they would call it a jungly pear. Like that was like wild pear. They didn't know what, but one thing that my mum and my grandma specifically remember is that just the soil was red and fertile, and it was just so fragrant, just everywhere. That was what the soil was like. And I remember my Nana G saying that their house was like on a long road, and every day at the same time you'd see a cloud coming over the mountain. It would pour down with rain. And then everything. I don't know, I just remember those sorts of like visceral things. But the only thing with Bar that I remember from my dad's side, I don't remember them describing their house, but I remember Bar specifically talking about what it was like in India for her, like using like the cow pad.
Oh yeah,
like cow dung to light the fires. And my grandma was quite poor when like her family was really quite poor in India.
I think perhaps.
Whereabouts in India?
Well, that's from
Pavnagar?
No.
What was her? Oh wait, no. Borough?
No. I want to say, is she from Moa?
Moa, yeah, it's from Moa.
I think so.
It's in Gujarat.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah.
Lighting the fires.
Yeah, so that's all I remember in terms of that. But like another, sorry to go back, but just before I forget, there were, in what you asked before, there were two other things that I remember. Is one of the things that we do definitely hold on to. Like there were certain words that we didn't realise that we, being second generation, never having like any touchdown in East Africa, we were just using words like sati and kitambro and what other words? Sulfuriyo. Yeah, there were like loads of words that we were using that I thought were Gujarati. Like I like fully thought that they were Gujarati, but they are actually Swahili.
You had a similar thing.
The same. I mean, there's only, I realised that some words were Swahili is when I went to India. Then I asked for some oranges, muchungu. In India, and nobody knew what I was talking about. And also sufuriyo. And yesterday I discovered a word that I thought was Gujarati and been using for ages. Was sangaru, and which means guinea pig.
Oh really? How does guinea pig keep coming up in conversation?
I don't know. We had them in Kenya. Well, my mum's family had guinea pigs as pets in Kenya, and we have them as pets now. So
okay, that makes
that's
sense.
why
Yeah,
it's up. But the language we spoke was a combination of English, Gujarati, and Swahili.
Same. And I didn't realise it.
No, we wouldn't. But but all of that, the other words that are not English are lumped together as being Indian words.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
Yeah, Jambo and
And
that's
another,
why obviously not from India.
no. I mean, for other people, I guess the other words are really obviously not, but not for us.
No, they wouldn't know.
Yeah. And another thing, like we mentioned ginger.
Yeah.
Do you know what ginger is?
No.
So that relates to another thing that I think is like an interesting convergence. Is ginger is rajma, which is like red kidney bean curry. But we all know it as ginger, but that's in our house. My mum's side, like for them, they're like, "What are you on about?" Even though they still have that, they're kind of like, "Oh my god, that's such a Joshi thing."
Yeah.
So there's ginger, which we eat, and we call it that. And there's also matoki that we have. That's green banana.
Okay.
And that's very much a Ugandan, East African dish.
And it's really good.
Yeah, it's really good with like a peanut sauce and stuff.
Mm.
But like we just had it as like, one day we'll have dal bhat shakwati and another day we'll have matoki, and there wasn't like today's the Ugandan day. It was just every other day, like
just mixed.
Yeah, just really mixed. So that is another thing that I think is quite interesting in terms of like how we like receive that double culture.
Felt quite seamless to you.
I mean, it's weird in a way. It does, but in a way, I think it's seamless because they didn't talk about their difficult experiences a lot, which is one thing that I like deeply regret. My dad passed away last year, and he was 11 and a refugee when he came here, and I'd always be so, every time he'd kind of like randomly bring up like something about that time, I'd always be, my ears would prick up, and I'd really try and like delve into what he was talking about. From a young age, I was so interested in that side of his life. He never really like opened up that much about it, and I don't know if it's partly because he was so young, he doesn't remember, partly because he doesn't want to talk about it, maybe it's traumatic, I don't know. But when he passed away, I deeply felt that someone who is full of these stories is now inaccessible, and those stories are therefore now inaccessible, and how important it is to talk about these things before people pass away, because that generation that migrated over is starting to pass away now. Like our parents and our grandparents are old enough now to be struck down. And that was actually, that death was the stimulus for me to really go back into my family archives, discover what was going on. Like, it's interesting the difference between my nanaji and my dada. Like, my nanaji was really quite into photography, and he's really compiled these beautiful albums, whereas my dada, I was like to him, can you show me where all the photos are? And they're all kind of like unordered, half of them are negatives, not developed. Like, they were just in a box next to his like secret brandy stash. Like,
I know what that is.
Yes. And it's just like a bunch of stuff. And one of the things that I took a picture of that I can't find right now, but I will send to you, which I thought was fascinating, was that when they were in the refugee camp, the Sun newspaper came and took a picture of our family, and I wish they had got that newspaper or that article. I'm sure it might be available in the archives somewhere. Yes. But they took a picture to show like, this is what's happening, that just as a story. And then there's a letter that is just pristinely kept by my granddad in this box, and it's from a reader of the Sun newspaper who had, and stapled to that is a £1 note, which my granddad still hasn't even got rid of or taken, and it's just a typed letter that said, "Dear Mr. Joshi, I read about the plight of your family. here's £1, hopefully you can buy something nice for your children for Christmas. And I saw that letter and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like my family was that like charity case. And I remember my dad saying that our dads used to fight for clothes given by the Salvation Army.
Or used to wear like she's really small. She used to wear like
she's so small.
She used to wear like things that just didn't fit because they had to leave all their clothes, right?
Like massive,
like heels. She's like, I've never worn heels in my life, and there were only heels there.
Yeah,
to do.
So yeah. That was really funny. Yeah, I just remember my dad being like, they'd fight for like this one shirt that was like, and I specifically, one thing that I really remember my dad saying is that there used to be like a really floral flower power like shirt that had been donated, and both him and your dad used to think that they were like, oh my god, it's so cool, and they like fought over it, like even though it's like some big like horrible, probably really garish shirt, they just thought that it was like at the height of cool.
Well, it was the 70s.
I do hear of like stories of people trying to grow certain seeds from India, or I don't know about Kenya, but certainly from India, and like bringing things over, like the dried seeds, and attempting to grow them and have what you have in your home countries, and then that is not happening, and that is some, there's some kind of something metaphoric and symbolic about kind of planting something from your heritage that just doesn't grow here.
My granddad's still trying to do that. When we went to India, he last year to take my dad's ashes, like there was just like a place that we stopped over in, and obviously all these Indian places, they sell like everything. They're not just like food, they'll sell everything. There was like a stack of seeds, and my granddad literally spent like half an hour trying to find like the perfect seeds to bring home, and he picked like aubergine seeds and all of these. I was like, who's gonna grow that? Like, yeah, so it's still happening.
But I guess like today, like we're really fortunate because you can get everything under the sun, but like back then they would have struggled to, but I mean, I certainly remember Indian supermarkets from like mid-70s, and people gravitating towards those those supermarkets to get their Indian vegetables, and there were certain places that people would go to, and then that trips to India, people would like fill their suitcases up with the things that weren't available, and we don't need to do that anymore. We fill them with clothes and bangles instead. But I think people were like, and posting over stuff as well, like posting over packages of food. And I was saying earlier that I've got memories of I think they were I think it was a family that was living in South Africa. At Christmas time, would send us a massive box of dried fruit from. I don't know if it was a family from Nairobi or South Africa. I just can't remember. But I remember, like at Christmas time, like this parcel arriving full of all this exotic fruit and dried fruit.
How is that even allowed? But I mean, I guess back then, because I'm just thinking in my head of like the customs officers.
It was allowed. I think things were a lot more lax then. Up until like 2-3 years ago, we were all bringing mangoes over in our suitcases, and
still bring up to 2 boxes.
Oh, right.
in your packed luggage.
Yeah. But that kind of whole thing of identity and like what is African, what isn't, kind of certainly comes from those kind of moments where you're tasting food from Africa that you wouldn't necessarily get over here.
You were talking a little bit about your mum's integration a little bit. I think you had some stories about her. I don't know if you can remember.
Yeah, can you remind me what it was? Or?
Just in.
Just gonna get an orange.
You mentioned, I think it was one of her neighbours that she met, or it was an African lady that she met?
Oh, that was recently.
Oh,
that was recently. So like, I have a friend who is from Kenya, who is her heritage is African, and she wears, well, sometimes she wears all like traditional clothes from Kenya, like the kind of headdresses and the colourful long dresses and the beads and so on.
Is she from here as well?
So she was born in Kenya, and then she lived in London for years, and she's an older lady now. So she's has gone back to Kenya to live. I think she's in her 70s now. So my mum met her a few years ago and like dashed up to her and said, "Oh, you remind me of home." And for my friend, that she had a bit of an epiphany where she realised, because for her, like, also like in terms of like identity, like Kenya is for like, Africans, and I think a lot of people like had that kind of attitude, and there was like, you know, racism towards the Indians because they were taking, similar to what's happening here, the same kind of like headlines you read, all the same kind of descriptions that you read of like what Idi Amin said about the Asians then, that, you know, we want Uganda for Ugandans.
They're taking all our jobs.
They're not integrating. They they keep to their own communities. Blah blah blah. I don't know how much of that was true, but I think there's still some kind of, I get an impression there's a similar kind of attitude towards Indians. I don't know how many Indians like carry on living there and what their experiences are, but I think my friend had a bit of this kind of opinion. So when my mum said, you remind me of home, she realised that, like home, it's her home as well, because she was born there, she grew up there, and that's part of her heritage.
I also probably reflects on how in Africa, I mean in Uganda and in Kenya, how they tell their own histories, how much of that past they erase in their history books, like when they're telling, like teaching people and stuff. So I guess they don't necessarily even like know parts of their own like country's history.
And for us here as well, like I think slowly they're trying to get it into like UK curriculum about the history of like of East African Indians, because, you know, we are quite I don't know what percentage we are, but we're quite a high percentage, certainly in some communities like Leicester and London, and people don't know why we're here. They just think we're here because it's wealthy over here and it's crap in India, but actually they don't even know about the expulsion of Uganda and all the troubles that Kenyans and the people from Tanzania had.
And there was that whole Commonwealth Act as well back then, which was anyone who has a passport from any country of the Commonwealth is free to come to the UK. And I think they reverted that, I think in the 1970s, when there was a whole swarms of they actually said swarms.
Yeah, they did call it swarms.
They said we're swamped. Yeah, which is the same language that you were hearing now. And it was then that they realised we're being swamped by these minorities without and even back then, without realising the reason why these migrations are occurring is a result of like British influence. Britain's influence around the world. Like the reason why they came, or opportunities arose in East Africa for Indians was part of that. The reason why they left and came to Britain was also part of that. All of these
and not taking responsibility for their subjects. And I've got this. I don't have it, but my uncle has it. This is the uncle that's slightly younger than my mum. There's a picture of him, and I think he's about 16, with a bunch of other teenage lads, all Indian, Asian, at the pyramids in Egypt. And it's like, okay, and basically what had happened, and I've read about this since, is that, so they boarded a flight from Kenya to UK, but when they reached the borders, despite having a British passport, they're not allowed to embark here, so they get sent back to Kenya, but once you leave Kenya, I've just read about this recently, but my family actually told me this as well. Once you've left Kenya, you can't re-enter because you don't have a Kenyan citizenship.
That's crazy.
So basically, they're just like flying around. They're flying around, and like India won't let you embark there. Because you don't have a visa and you don't have an Indian passport.
Because you're a British subject.
Because you're a British subject.
That's insane. Like, I didn't know that.
No, but I only know because I saw this amazing picture, which I should get it scanned, of them all like hanging out in front with a big sphinx behind them. And it's a fascinating picture, but it's just stories. Even though my family didn't come from Uganda. And they weren't like kicked out at the last minute, which sounds absolutely horrific. But you still had all those like problems. Like I remember my mum was saying when she came, she was an unmarried woman. I think she was like 19, and she came on her own. Which if I had to like do that, I would like shit myself, But she came on her own and met other people.
Yeah.
She met other people on the flight. And they all got put in a detention centre. I don't know where it was. And
your mum?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And she's on her own, and she talks about another friend of hers who also came on her own. She was a bit younger. She was 16. I think my mum, she must have had like a tough character. She's got a tough character now. But her friend was hysterical, and her friend was just like screaming and crying the entire time. And so they the kind of immigration people are asking her both of them questions, and her friend is just like screaming and just like being like hysterical,
The friend that she just made on the plane.
Yeah, on the flight, on the way there. And like
what? I didn't know that this kind of stuff happened for the Kenyans as well. I
think so. Yeah, and she came. So I think they were in that detention center for a week. She made friends with another family, and consequently, like that the daughter that was born from that couple that she met, and they had a little girl who was a few years older, but she's turned out to be one of my closest friends now, just by chance, because my mum, because they met them there. But yeah, it's probably like. You can imagine like kind of leaving your parents behind in your family, then you're going to live with some like uncle who doesn't really kind of care about you. And she was like saying she'd like cry herself to sleep, and like my other relative would be, they'd share a bedroom. And for that woman as well, like she's brought up in Britain, she's having to like share her bedroom now. She's a teenager, she doesn't want to share a bedroom. She's sharing her bedroom with some random person that's turned up from Kenya, and that must have been hard. My mum said she'd cry herself to sleep, but her relative just wouldn't even like ask her how she was. And I said, Mum, maybe she had earplugs in. And no, she didn't hear you. She goes, no, she didn't have earplugs in. She heard me, but they never said anything. But I think also for like saying earlier that even like for Indians that came here, they experienced all kinds of prejudices as well, like loads. I was saying that when my dad came here, he was like about 29, 28, and he got a telegram, and he's living in lodgings like with an English landlady. And loads of other like men, and they'd probably I think they'd circulate the beds. So like one person does a day shift, some person does a night shift, but they'll sleep in the same bed when the other person isn't there. But he got a telegram through, and the telegram basically said that your dad, my granddad, has passed away. So obviously like really traumatised, and he said, said to the landlady, can I use your bath? He wanted to have a bath, It's quite important, but culturally as well, like if someone's died, you want to kind of then use, and also just to kind of relax in a bath and wash that mental kind of negativity away. But she just refused, she wouldn't even let him use the bathroom. You have to so you have to go to the local swimming pool.
Really? Oh my god.
And actually, I remember that from that story. I remember going to the swimming pool in the early 70s for swimming lessons and so on. And I would ask my mum, I said, how come I said all these people, they weren't in the swimming pool, but why are they in the showers? There's like loads of people just tell all the showers are like constantly full of people, and basically, and I don't think my mum told me properly, but that I realise now that there's loads of people using the showers, but they didn't use the pool before, is because they don't have a bathroom at home, so they're coming there to use the showers.
That kind of really puts
It's like the basics.
Yeah.
And also how much like washing and stuff is so much part of like different religious and cultural rituals that we have that are so part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah. And also it made me think as well when you talked about the showers, and also when you mentioned about shops where you can buy everything now, is that even back then and now, these like fruit and veg cash and carries were such community meeting points for people. They were the times that you could like see each other, like spend time, like meet your like mate who was also looking for like the best leaves in the bunch and stuff, and just that it was like a small pocket of like inner city life that almost was like the closest to home, where there was just like that exchange with the cashier, like how are you, blah blah blah. That, and also in a similar way, the way that the showers were for those people, and maybe even when you were having your swimming lessons, that they were like cultural like meeting points where people just had like a similar reason for being there, and they just came from like a similar like struggle.
I mean, there were like from what certainly from the Patel community. Samages, I'll just explain, like samages are like your caste of people, your community like hires a hall and they have like Garba, Dandiaras, Diwali and all that, and the Patel community did have a Samaj in 1974, because I remember, or 75, because I certainly remember going to it. So I think even like earlier on there were like people did kind of like form these like clubs, like kind of social kind of clubs, or even like at rented halls, but I mean I think maybe that was kind of something that was happening then. I remember looking at wedding photographs of people from earlier on, like in the late 60s, early 70s, that kind of time, where you look at wedding photographs of the weddings performed at home. I didn't know that, and I was like, oh, or in the back garden. And I was talking to some relatives about it recently. I was like, oh, I had no idea. I thought you just like hire a hall to have a wedding, but they said, oh, we didn't have money to hire a hall. You would just and actually even the amount of people that come to a wedding, like 2,000 people turn up for an Indian wedding these days. Back then there'd be a really small handful, like
and there was no
10
catering.
people.
There wasn't any catering or anything either.
I don't know.
Stuff by hand. I know my bar was saying as well, like how if there was anything at home, she'd be the one in the kitchen up, like in the morning with the other women, which is also an interesting like gender thing, like how just like reading off like all these stories and I find it interesting how these things that used to happen in India and even Uganda and stuff, like the way that in that they were designed for that particular setting, that particular like warm setting where things were like kind of indoor outdoor, whereas like recreating them in these like British places, like when in Indian weddings how there's the coconut and like you drive over the coconut, say things like that, or like things to do with doorways and how we use the mandaps, like the tent, like the pillars, the structure where the wedding takes place. I'd like to know more about the way that architecture actually is reappropriated for a religious or cultural context that is being brought over, the way and how I know for like Diwali or Navratri, which is the days leading up to Diwali, like how we'd have put gungu, which is the red dye, it's a red paste, on like the doorways and stuff, and like with the symbols to welcome like God into the home. But for me that makes sense. But I can just imagine that when that idea was thought up by someone thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago, they didn't imagine it being done in like North London somewhere on like a plastic doorway, or lino, or exactly. Like it's just funny how that's like we hold on to those things.